Welcome to Femme Furious, a podcast where pop culture meets a feminine framing. I am your host, Julia Rose Portela, and today we are flying from Portland to South Korea to go be with our cute, long-distance Korean boyfriend. We are covering XO Kitty. That's right, we're covering season 1 of XO Kitty. This will be a quickie, recap. It will walk you through everything that's happening in the first season, so you can just give it a little listen to catch up. We'll be doing season 2 early in March, and then season 3 drops all at once, all 8 episodes on April 2nd, and we'll be doing an episode to cover the third season as well. But before we dive into today's episode, let me tell you how you can support and follow the podcast. Of course, you can subscribe anywhere that you get your podcast. You can watch on YouTube, Substack, or Patreon. If you are looking for other cultural analysis, that would be over on the Substack. If you are looking for community, head on over to the Patreon. Launching on the Patreon for free for you is going to be a fangirl fan guide. So it will help bring you into these worlds or whatever we're covering on the podcast in a much deeper way. That will be starting with the Boys of Tommen series, which we are doing starting March 3rd. We are starting with Binding 13, and we are going through the first book, which is a chunky book. All of her books are pretty chunky, Chloe Walsh. So if you've never read Boys of Tommen, it's a really wonderful, beautiful series. I hope everyone joins me for this deep dive. But there is a lot of crossover. There's a lot of foreshadowing. There's a lot of characters, and they are not characters that lack substance or are inconsequential or sort of like just there expositionally to like move the plot along, because a lot of times we will get the same story crossed over from different perspectives. So I'm going to create a fan guide. It's going to have a bunch of stuff. We'll do it for each and every series that we're covering. And that will be starting with the Boys of Tommen. That will be free for you, but it's going to be over on the Patreon. So go and join the Patreon and start engaging with the wonderful stuff that's on there for you. You can also, of course, follow the podcast on Instagram and TikTok at Femme and Furious Pod. All right. I don't know about you, but I love a coming of age story. I really do. I just love the ideas that are usually explored in these types of stories. And out of Jenny Han's 3 properties being The Summer I Turned Pretty, obviously cultural phenomenon, To All the Boys I Loved Before, where we first meet Kitty, which was a Netflix movie trilogy, and this, XO Kitty. XO Kitty is by far my favorite. I think the characters have much more depth. I think there is a lot more going on, and there's just different themes that are being explored in a much richer way that I think gets sort of brushed over in All the Boys I've Loved Before because it's just a movie. There's only so much time. And I think that a lot of what happens in The Summer I Turned Pretty, they have some really lovable characters and some really lovable themes, but the show is missing something for me. I don't know what it is. And I like it because I like coming of age stories and because I like engaging with stories about young women who are discovering themselves. And out of all 3 of those stories that Jenny Han has put out and that have been adapted, to me, XO Kitty is the most realistic of the bunch of what it is to be a young woman coming of age. And I think that's why I love the story so much. So we have some season-wide themes of identity, sexual awakening, grief, belonging, all things that we love to explore within a story. And we've met Kitty before, so we're familiar with her coming into this. We don't have to spend a lot of time getting to know her. I don't think the show demands that you've seen To All the Boys I Loved Before trilogy, but I do think it anticipates that you've probably seen it. So even when there's crossover, it's sort of explained in a way that's very easy to understand if you've never seen the other trilogy. But we've met Kitty before, so we're comfortable with her coming into the story. We like her. She's an endearing character in Lara Jean and Peter Kavinsky's love story in All the Boys I've Loved Before. And she's charming. She walks her own line. And that's what's so beautiful about her in All the Boys I've Loved Before, because she helps Lara Jean, find this inner confidence because she is so confident in herself. So it's really nice to see a slightly older version of Kitty who when you're very young, it's easy to be confident because you haven't discovered all of the things about yourself that make you feel shame or ugly or cringe or whatever. And so seeing Kitty in a slightly older position now, she's had a boyfriend, they've been long distance, she's been going through her school journey. She's still pretty confident, she still walks her own line, and yet she doesn't have the same bravado all the way. There's a little bit more self-doubt. There's a little bit more insecurity. And that makes a lot of sense because that's what it is to be a teenage girl, discovering yourself and finding out who you are. It makes sense that her self-doubt and her lack of clarity about who she is in full as she is discovering new bits of herself, as she's getting new information about herself because she's discovering more of the world. And so she's learning more about herself in these different experiences that she's having. Of course, there would be relational confusion and quick turnovers. In Exo Kitty, some of these relationships end, and they should, because when you're 15, 16, 17 years old, you are in a more fleeting position. I love that this show has kind of a lot of hormones and figuring things out about our hormones and what does this even mean? So there is so much in this story that I love, that I appreciate, because it feels more honest to a teenage experience than some of the other stories that we get. I also love that there's a lot of queer exploration here. I love that there's varying relationships to class, to parents. Kitty has a wonderful relationship with her father and her stepmother. And yet we have opposite her, Yuri, who really doesn't get along with her parents and resents them and doesn't necessarily understand them. And then we have Professor Flannery, who's looking for a relationship with his parents and trying to discover who he is all these years later with his biological parents. And then you have Day, who, like Kitty, has lost a parent, but has a little bit more of a terse relationship with his dad than Kitty has with her dad. So, you get these varying relationships, and that's not even including Mino, who has a really unique and interesting relationship with his mom. But you see these different varying relationships to parents. You see different varying relationships to class, to academics, to life. I really love that this is a coming of age story where everyone's experience coming of age within the text is different because they all have different things to explore as their growth hurdles. And that is what makes this story, I think, so special. And I'm really excited to see what season 3 will cook up. So let's go into our quickie recap. Episode 1, XO. Kitty Song Covey touches down in Korea with nothing but optimism and a dream of finally kissing her long-distance boyfriend, Dae. At the airport, she meets a mystery man who pretends not to speak English, and naturally, this man will become important later on. While Kitty texts her sisters Lara Jean and Margot about her impending first kiss, we meet Yuri, who is a rich, glamorous, permanently stalked by paparazzi hospitality heiress, and her mother, Gina, interrogates her about a rumored romance with her best friend, Juliana. Yuri denies everything, but does admit that she's been seeing someone, though she doubts her mother would approve. Once there, the mission gets even more simple. Surprise Day, get my first kiss, live happily ever after. Unfortunately, she misses her bus from the airport and is forced to navigate the streets of Korea all on her own. This is where one Dr. Covey absolutely fails as a parent, in my opinion, even though I stan him as a person and deeply adore him most of the time. Enter Yuri, who almost flattens Kitty with her luxury SUV, which is honestly their meet cute vibe for the season. We learn that Day is struggling to afford his scholarship, while Kitty, fueled by jet lag and blind optimism, stumbles into the welcome party dance. There, she runs into the mystery man again, who we find out is Minho. This man continues to radiate expensive hostility towards Kitty, and when she finally spots Day, they have their slow-mo reunion moment before being interrupted by Yuri, who claims that Day is her boyfriend. Welcome to Korea, bestie. Episode 2, WTF. Kitty's emotional breakdown is, in true Song Covey fashion, very dramatic, and involves, in true Song Covey fashion, cupcakes, as God intended. The best way to have a crisis is to crash out in a cupcake tower. IMHO. In her attempt to flee the country and crawl back to Portland in shame, Kitty accidentally learns that she has been assigned into the boys' dormitory and is sharing a room with none other than her cheating ex-boyfriend. We discover that Day and Yuri's relationship is a carefully orchestrated PR scheme to hide Yuri's very real, very gay relationship with Juliana. You know what they say, mother always knows best. And the Wu-Tang Clan had it right when they also said, cash rules everything around me, because this little PR stunt provides Day with a lovely influx of money, allowing him to secure his spot at Kiss. I like to think of this not as prostitution and manipulation, and more of a paid position to be somebody's beard. Just as Kitty is about to escape campus, she sees a tree that her mother had photographed during her time at Kiss and interprets it as a spiritual sign to stay and to finish out the semester. Day chases after Kitty, attempting to explain everything that's been happening with him and Yuri, but is whisked away to a press conference with his paparazzi princess. Watching the press conference, Kitty, a self-proclaimed matchmaker TM, realizes the truth about the relationship between Day and Yuri. It's fake as fuck, setting the stage for even more betrayal, confusion, yearning, raging hormones, and unresolved tension. Episode 3, Kiss. This episode opens by reminding us that Day is broke, and also very endearingly, deeply devoted to his family. Which means that while we are contractually obligated on this podcast to support our girl Kitty, we are secretly rooting for Day to pull through. Kitty tries to confront him, but chaos intervenes. Day has signed an NDA promising Yuri that he will not disclose that their relationship is fake, and turning the crack between Kitty and himself into a full-blown chasm. Kitty struggles to acclimate after learning that not only has she earned the nickname Portland Stalker, but at Kiss, she is no longer a gifted child, just a mildly above-average American. Kitty hangs out with Q, where she discovers not only does he hold bestie potential, but he holds gay bestie potential. And she puts on her matchmaking hat when she realizes that he is interested in their fellow classmate Florian. Meanwhile, Minho's baby nickname, Poopy Baby, derived from him being in a diaper commercial when he was younger, becomes public knowledge thanks to Kitty, scoring her a point on the Kitty-Minho rivalry board. Yuri convinces Day once again to keep their fake relationship a secret, claiming that Kitty is untrustworthy. And Day, hurt that Kitty would use information that Day shared with her, he then lies to Kitty and crushes all of her hopes that the relationship is fake, handing back her necklace like a symbolic breakup dagger. Kitty, spiraling, digs into her mother's past and uncovers a mysterious baby bracelet. And just like that, the show transforms from a true coming-of-age story to a generational trauma exploration. Episode 4, TGIF. Deciding once and for all to stay at Kiss, Kitty moves out of the boys' dorm and gets a roommate from hell, triggering PTSD for anyone who has ever lived in communal housing. During a hike that feels like a group therapy sesh, Kitty finds a hospital that is linked to the mom's secret baby bracelet and tracks down Alex Finnerty, a teacher at Kiss, whom she believes may be her secret half-brother. Minho accidentally sabotages Q's romantic prospects with Florian, proving once again that straight boys are a stain on the dating world for men and gaybies alike. Kitty also discovers her roommate live-streamed her while she was sleeping, which feels illegal and is going against every rule in the Girl Code handbook. According to Kitty's roommate, boundaries are just a social construct. Kitty moves back into the boys' dorm with Minho, Q, and Day. Episode 5, TBH. Chuseok arrives, which is Korean Thanksgiving without the genocide, and Kitty plans a massive party for students that cannot return home to their families. Kitty sincerely attempts to lean in, but it turns out she's not all the way in touch with her Korean roots yet. So, Minho takes over and surprisingly is a good cook. The camera lingers on him, and we understand why. Yuri diffuses family tension by, leaving and going to spend the holiday with her fake boyfriend, Day. As she leaves his house, she intercepts a package that is meant for Day, which was a peace offering from Kitty. Minho suffers an unintentional but very funny lactose-induced gastrointestinal betrayal from Kitty's mashed potatoes, ruining his K-pop date in what can only be described as slapstick humiliation cinema. Alex confirms to Kitty that Professor Lee is his father, and Kitty suggests that her mother might be his biological mom, because what is a family holiday without a little extra drama? Now, this is a sidebar, but a very important note. This is the episode that Minho calls Kitty Covey, calls her by her last name, which, if you watched All the Boys I Loved Before, I will just say that's the nickname that Peter calls Lara Jean. So right here in episode 5, we are getting a turn of the tide about where this love story is actually going. And I just want to point it out because if anyone's confused about who the endgame is, it's Minho. You are watching a love story between Minho and Kitty. That's not a spoiler. It's from the very first boy that she sees is not Day, it's Minho. And when she gets back to kiss, who does she bump into first? It's Minho. So it's setting you up for that. But if you get to the end of the season and you're like, wait, where did all this come from? This is where we can really start to see it formulating. Is right here. It's a little nugget for those of us that have watched To All the Boys I've Loved Before. The fact that Minho calls Kitty by her last name, calls her Covey, is letting us know that Minho is the end game. I will not be taking notes. I will not be taking questions. I love Minho. I'm so down bad for him. I love him so much. I love him out of all of the men that Jenny Han has put out there in the world. I'm sorry to Conrad Fisher. I'm sorry to Peter Kavinsky. It's Minho. That's it. Okay, episode 6, BYOB. Minho has a smutty little dream about Kitty, signaling his official entry into the love polygon. Q gives Kitty some tough love, reminding her that she's young, she's hot, and she's wasting her life crying over some boy, telling her that it's time to get out of her comfort zone, babe, and go explore what else Korea has to offer. What's on offer, you may ask? Minho throwing a party. Kitty arrives dressed in Diana's revenge dress and drunkenly then confronts Day and Alex. Yuri saves Kitty from kissing a barely sentient red flag. Minho decides to cave and make out with Madison out of jealousy when he sees that Kitty and Day are chatting it up. Once again, Minho is our leading man. Thank you. Kitty develops a crush on Yuri while she's DJing. I get it. And then she dreams about kissing her, and the bisexual awakening officially enters the chat. Episode 7, Till. Saturday detention becomes a pressure cooker of secrets being explored. After discovering that Kitty is still living in the boys' dorm, Yuri manipulates Day into maintaining their fake relationship using Kitty's living situation as leverage. Gina gets really weird over Kitty's necklace. Kitty and Yuri then go to investigate their mom's history, wanting to know what their relationship was. What is the relationship between Gina and Eve Song? They discover that Yuri's mom, Gina, was the one who was pregnant, not Eve. Having bonded with Kitty, Yuri then feels guilty and stages a very dramatic public breakup with Day. Kitty and Day finally share their first kiss, and Kitty immediately looks deeply unfulfilled. Yikes. Episode 8, LFG. Kitty realizes she is deeply unsatisfied, which is the emotional thesis of being 17. More specifically, she recognizes that her relationship with Day has been significantly altered after she, consequently, developed feelings for the girl that he was in a fake relationship with. Yuri comes out to Kitty, which only greenlights Kitty's very complex feelings for her. Their bond deepens. Meanwhile, Kitty's sister, Margot, helps to reunite Yuri and Juliana via FaceTime, proving once again that the Covey sisters exist solely to advance the romantic subplots. Minho gets rejected by Madison when he asks her to be his girlfriend, and Day tries to fix things with Kitty, but Kitty cannot stop thinking about Yuri. Everyone is absolutely spiraling. This is what it is to be 17. Episode 9, Snafu. Family secrets explode. Alex confronts Gina about her being his mother. Yuri comes out to Gina, and the trauma wheel just keeps on spinning. Kitty and Yuri share a moment, and then share an almost kiss. Hugh and Florian exchange I love yous amid Florian's academic cheating confession. Kitty accidentally sets herself on fire during the school's talent show, and of course, Minho saves her, cementing his rom-com endgame eligibility. Gina finally confesses everything to her husband and to Professor Lee. Kitty tells Day that she has feeling for someone else, and Day assumes that it's Minho because he saw the way that boy looked at Kitty, and he knew that man had feelings for her. Episode 10, OTP. Kitty comes out as bi, pan, fluid, we don't know. To her dad, of course. Dr. Covey responds wonderfully. She also comes out to Day, who reacts poorly. Dr. Covey gives the perfect dad advice to Kitty, reminding us why we would die for him, and by we I mean me. He tells Kitty, you went to find her and you found yourself. Meaning you went to Korea to kiss, to find out about your mom, and you ended up finding yourself. This is the thesis of why I fucking love a coming of age story. The test results come in and Florian takes the top spot, effectively kicking Day out of school because of his scholarship requirements. This does not sit well with Q. Kitty is discovered to be living in the boys' dormitory, which results in Kitty's immediate expulsion, even though none of the boys receive the same treatment, which feels wildly disproportionate, but okay. Tearful goodbyes ensue. Day runs through the airport like he's auditioning for Love Actually, hoping to reconcile and confess his feelings to Kitty. Kitty beats him to the punch and tells Day that he was the perfect first boyfriend. They have a beautiful breakup kiss. Kitty then turns around to see that Yuri is also at the airport and nearly confesses her love to her. But fate, timing, and Juliana intervene. On the plane, Kitty sits beside Mino, who finally confesses to Kitty that he has fallen in love with her, delivering the season's closing line and launching the fandom into an immediate civil war. All right, let's crack open our burn book where we will look at the superlatives for this episode. Bold and Bothered Award. This is strictly for the Femme and the Furious. It is the quote or the moment that really relays feminine rage. And it is Kitty and Q getting into a fight over Florian's cheating. The Shiro Award. This award goes to the baddie who is the most inspiring or the moment that is the most empowering. And it is Gina bringing back Juliana. Gina has the most interesting arc to me over the course of the season. I think maybe because I'm getting older and I'm starting to resonate with the parent characters now more than the teenage characters, which makes sense because I'm in my 30s and I could have a fucking teenager if I had kids in a different part of my life. That being said, I think Gina going from this place where she feels trapped in her marriage, buying into this idea that their family is this perfect family when she's not happy. She's got these secrets that she feels she had to keep from her husband. She got pregnant and didn't tell the man that she loved and had a connection to because she didn't want to hold him back from his future. She's somebody who is trying to make the right moves and trying to make the right calls and trying to do the right thing and failing at it, especially when it comes to Yuri. And instead of being unreasonable or making herself closed off to this, when Yuri addresses something and makes a point, Gina listens to it. And I think this relationship that Yuri and Kitty develop and what that friendship sparks inside of Gina as she's watching it even from a distance, I think it makes her so much more receptive, especially because we get to the end of the season, we get Gina giving Kitty a letter that her mother wrote her and telling her, I never wrote back, but I really wish I did. And just this idea of, again, grief and regret and, what it is to get pregnant and have to make these decisions by yourself. And now your friend has to fly home to America because she was here only on this program. And what are the repercussions of that? Gina listening to Yuri and saying that things aren't perfect and she's not happy and that this was wrong, like you sent her away and this was wrong. And Gina really being receptive to that and actively taking steps to correct it is one of my favorite parts of the show. Okay, the Femme Fatale Award for the most smash the patriarchy moment of the episode. And it is Kitty standing up to a guy at Mino's party and not letting him talk shit about Yuri despite the fact that she and Yuri are not on good terms. Speak your truth trophy. The best quote, line, or lyric. And this is by Minho when he says, God damn it, Q, this is bespoke. I laugh so hard at that. It's a funny line. And then honorary heartthrob, because I'm just a girl, okay? And I want to talk about the most wound-worthy moments. And it has to be the last line. Kitty, I think I fell in love with you a little bit, or maybe a lot. Okay, thanks for listening to this week's episode of Femme Furious. I know this was literally a quickie, quickie. But when the show comes out, we will go deeper into each episode. So thank you for tuning in. And, if you like this episode, please share it with your friends. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Leave a review. Please leave a review. I can't encourage you enough. Please leave a freaking review. Share the episode with friends. Follow on social media. All that good stuff. If you have thoughts, feelings, opinions about anything that we might be doing on the podcast or anything that we might be covering, femmeandfuriouspod@gmail.com is where you can send that. You can join my monthly newsletter, Lipstick and Lore. I will be back on Friday with an author interview. And then starting next Tuesday, We are in Boys of Tommen vibes. I cannot wait. I literally cannot wait. I've never been more excited for something in my entire life. I love everything that I cover on this podcast. I don't know if I will love covering anything as much as I'm about to enjoy deep diving into this world, this universe. I'm actually sad that we can't like ram through all of these books back to back because there's definitely other stuff that I really want to do, including Euphoria, which we're going right from Binding 13 into Euphoria. So I've said it before and I'll say it again. We are in hashtag sad girl spring. Not spring here right now. I don't know. We just got about 3 feet of snow, depending on where you look. So it's not spring quite yet, but it's on its way, or at least hopefully it will be on its way soon. So that's what we're doing. We're going into Binding 13. Please read. Please read. We're just doing chapters 1 through 10. That will be March 3rd. Okay. And then March 6th, we'll be doing EXO Kitty season 2 recap. So you've got about a week and a half to watch all 10 episodes. They're quick. They're bite-sized. Love it. Come back. We'll see you next week. And until then, XO.